Hey guys, my name is JONACI V, and this is going to be a presentation on depression, and this is regarding your classmate that is coming back after being hospitalized. So we're going to talk about various things in this slideshow to just kind of help you guys understand exactly what to expect when they come back. So what is depression? Depression is when there is a psychological distress in the mind that can be mild, and it can go all the way up to being severe. So a psychological distress is when there is some sort of unpleasant emotion or feeling that can have a mild or severe impact on your everyday functioning. Depression can be caused by a traumatic event, a life-altering change, a loss in the family or someone close in like the circle of the student. These are just a few of the causes, but it is not limited to just these. There can be many other things that can cause depression. So these symptoms also can differ in culture and gender. So from female to male, or from African American to Caucasian, or from different religions. So it kind of just depends on where you come from and how your family or culture deals with depression or any sort of stressor. So speaking of stressors, these are just some things, like I said, not just limited to this list, that can trigger depression or a depressive episode. So a stressful social situation, which can be a play, a concert, things like that. Self-appearance, because at this age, what you look like is very important to you, so that can be a very large stressor. Bullying, poor home life. So maybe this student doesn't have a very stable home life, so that can trigger some depression. Loss in the family. Season changes. So a student may be more depressed when it's colder because it is kind of more dark and kind of gloomy, so that can kind of trigger some depression, or it could even, be the opposite of that. Some people may be more depressed in summer or fall, so it kind of just depends on the person. And then keeping up a certain image, and what I mean by that is like if you're on the honor roll, you're a model student, so maybe like an ambassador of your class, a star athlete, you may be the starting quarterback or whatever it is on the football team. That can cause a lot of pressure, which can cause a lot of stress, which can cause a depressive episode. So what are some of the signs that we can look for in the student? So anxiety can be one, and anxiety is just when you feel worried, overwhelmed, your heart rate starts to rise, you feel a lot of pressure kind of coming down on you. Limited social contact. So this kind of means that the student is being a little isolative, they don't want to be around big groups. You kind of see them sitting by themselves, going on like by themselves. So this can be a very big sign. Poor academic performance. So this is not something exactly that you guys would know specifically. This would be something more for your teacher. But this is something you can notice in a friend. Like if they usually are very on top of their homework and very on top of their grades and things like that, and you kind of notice that that's declining and they're not caring as much as they typically do, this can be a sign that you can look for. Poor hygiene. So the student may come to school with their hair not brushed, smelling of body odor. You can tell that maybe they haven't changed their clothes in a couple of days. And when you get depressed, a lot of the times, like the everyday things that are important to someone that's not depressed may not be as important to the person that is depressed. So that can be another large sign to look for. Difficulty complying with teachers or faculty or friends. So this could mean the student is not very attentive. They don't really listen to what other people are saying to them. They may even snap or lash out at the wrong people. And this is just a really good way to tell that there may be some depression going on, especially if you've seen a large change within. At one point they weren't this way and now all of a sudden they are. Okay, so what can we do to help the student? So when the student returns to school, try not to give like odd looks or a stare or whisper to your friends like when you're around them, because they already feel kind of odd anyway, having this illness attached to them now. So that may be a stressor for them, and that can bring on a depressive episode. Also, try not to be overly concerned. It's totally okay to be concerned about the student or the classmate or your friend even. But when typically you weren't overly concerned with them before they were hospitalized and now you are, that may be a little stressful for them because they may not know how to handle it and they may think, oh no, they're judging me or anything like that. So just try and keep it as normal as possible. So they already know when they come back to school things are going to change because they have been diagnosed with this illness. So like I said, just make sure you act as normal as possible. Just be there for them if they do trust you to talk to you about their illness, but try not to push them. So it's okay to ask questions, but just make sure they're appropriate. So something that would be inappropriate, quote unquote, so you're depressed now. That can sound not really concerned, but it can sound kind of negative. So to kind of reiterate that, you could be like, so is there anything that I can do to help? Or you could say, I'll be here for you if you ever need to talk to somebody, just kind of things, positive things like that. If you're not exactly sure what the stressors are of the specific student, ask the teacher first, because it's better to not say something than to say something that you didn't know was going to be hurtful. So if you don't feel comfortable asking the student themselves, just ask the teacher, because they'll be completely aware of what to say and what not to say. So how does this affect you and your classmates directly? Having a fellow classmate that has been diagnosed with depression can affect you. As a freshman, the reality is that students can be cruel. Not always on purpose, but it definitely can happen. If it is very tempting to stare and talk about the student because everyone is, unsure. What does this mean? What does this mean for my class or my friend? But it is so important that you don't do that. That can make the student feel more different, and it may trigger some of their stressors that you didn't know. Often the student hasn't really changed. They may just be a little bit more sensitive to certain things, but they're still your friend, they're still your classmate, they're still going through high school just like you. So it is so important to welcome them back with open arms and smiles and just be happy. Because being hospitalized as a young adult can be very hard, and coming back to school may be the hardest part. If you're their classmate or even their friend, do your best to make the student feel like nothing has changed and just they were missed. How are you? We did this assignment. We're so glad you're back. Things like that. If the student sees that they have allies in their situation, that can make them feel so much more at ease, and that could make them more willing to trust you and be able to talk to you about things without feeling judged. Lastly, but certainly not least, be patient. They have a lot of readjusting to do, as you do as well, but they have the most readjusting to do, so just be flexible and be willing to work at their pace. And that is all. Thank you very much.